Now let's solve a problem. Duck, duck, go. A dock worker applies a constant horizontal force of 80 newtons to a block of ice on a smooth horizontal floor. The frictional force is negligible. The block starts from rest and moves 11 meters in 5 seconds. A. What is the mass of the block of ice? And B. If the worker stops pushing at the end of 5 seconds, how far does the block move in the next 5 seconds? So I'll be giving you maybe a minute to think of the solution. This involves your F equals MA and your kinematic equations. As just a hint. Kasama dito yung kinematic equations. Because remember, again, if you have your acceleration, if that acceleration is constant, you can always apply your kinematic equations. Okay? Sige. Okay, so maybe 2 minutes have elapsed, so we can solve this problem. So again, we have a dock worker applying a constant horizontal force. Applying a constant horizontal force. Again, so we have a dock worker applying a constant horizontal force of 80 newtons to a block of ice on a smooth horizontal floor. Assuming that the frictional force is negligible, the block starts from rest and moves 11 meters in 5 seconds. So una, ang tinatanong, what is M? What is the mass of the block? Pero we know that from Newton's second law, its summation of forces gives rise. Isasulat ko dito for the meantime na net external yan para hindi nyo makalimutan, which is equal to MA vector. But the question now is, so in 1D, medyo si-simplify ito. We have summation Fx is simply MAx. The question now is, what is the acceleration? How can you determine this acceleration here? Given na hindi binigay yan, ang binigay lang sa atin ay yung force, the net force, so pwede nating sabing summation Fx na yan, which is equal to 80.0 newtons. Pero ang binigay sa atin ay, the block started at rest, therefore what can we say about its initial velocity? What's its initial velocity? Anyone? Nag-start ka at rest.
0, sir.
Yes,
0.
exactly. The initial velocity should be 0, and then it moves until it reaches 11 meters in 5 seconds. So the initial position, let us say this is XA, equals 11.0 meters. I'll explain to you bakit may mga subscript yan later, kasi kailangan yan. And then TA, but YA yan? TA is at 5.00 seconds. Now the question is, what is the mass? For us to determine the mass, we need to determine the acceleration first. And how do we determine the acceleration? Given tayo ng position, given tayo ng time. Therefore, ano gagamitin natin kinematic equation dyan? We will assume that the acceleration is constant throughout the first 5 seconds of the motion. Hence, how can we determine the acceleration from these given quantities? Anong gagamitan? Anong gagamitan? You just use your position time, di ba? You use your position time function, x of t, is simply x naught plus v naught t plus 1/2 a t squared. But we know that at t equals 5 seconds and at some given acceleration, the position is given by 11 meters. Therefore, xa equals, this is 0, this is also 0, and hence you have 1/2 a times ta quantity squared, implying that the acceleration is twice xa over ta quantity squared. And hence, when we do that, we solve for this. We have 2 quantity 11.0 meters divided by ta, which is 5.00 seconds quantity squared. And when we do that, anong lalabas? Ano yung maging acceleration mo therefore? Nakuha nyo ba? The acceleration, using your calculator, ang lalabas apparently ay 0.88 meters per second squared. And then, we already know the acceleration. We already know the force that's given in the problem. Therefore, the mass is just equal to the summation of all forces over the acceleration, which is given, implying that the mass is just 90.9 kilograms. Questions? Nakuha yung nakuha? Nakuha to?
Yes, sir.
Nakuha? So here, gamitan natin both kinematics and dynamics. Itong dalawang equation na lang. So doon nagkakaroon ng unification sort of yung kinematics and dynamics when you solve the acceleration, because the acceleration is the one that connects the dynamical variables from the kinematical variables. Okay? And then letter B. So the question now is, what is ang nangyari? So balikan natin yung problem. If the worker stops pushing at the end of 5 seconds, how far does the block move in the next 5 seconds? So ibig sabihin, after some time, tinanggal ni dock worker yung kanyang force. Therefore, ano mangyayari dun sa object? what will happen? If there's no force, there should be no acceleration. But what will happen to the object? Ano mangyayari sa object? From Newton's first law, ano mangyayari? Hihinto ba yung object? Hihinto ba siya? Ano mangyayari sa
Speed
object?
up, sir.
Again, pardon? Sorry, sabay-sabay kayo. What will happen is it will continue in motion with constant velocity along a straight line by Newton's first law, di ba? So what we want is since f equals 0 after TA, then the particle, the ano ba to? Pak ba to? The block of ice moves with constant velocity. Okay? Therefore, the question now is, what is the velocity of the block at the time TA? After time TA. Siyempre, after that, same na lang yung magiging velocity niyan. What will be the time? So, we can get the time VA, which is equal to what? We know our position. Of course, we can also know, we know our acceleration, therefore we can also use that. Hence, we have VA equals V naught minus plus ATA. I iterate velocity time because I know my acceleration already, and say that, okay, this is just equal to 0.88 meters per second squared multiplied by 5 seconds, and we get something like what? We get something like a 4.4 seconds, 4.4 meters per second. And that velocity is also the velocity after TA for the next 5 seconds. So let TB be the time after time 5 seconds after TA. And thus, from here, the position now, what is the final distance traveled by the puck, by the block of ice, sorry. So for the next 5 seconds, gaano kahaba? Remember, the acceleration is 0 in this particular case. That's ang displacement lang ay just velocity times time. Therefore, this is just VA TB, and implying that XB is, when you calculated XB is 22 meters. That is your answer. Nakuha yon? Nakuha? Gets ba?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I hope you get this problem. It might come in your, I think may similar na problem sa FQ dito, na ganito. I'm not sure. Please check. Pero I think meron. Sige.